Moving on with moving on with our project here, still on the third part, specific data to look for when analyzing major economies. And this is chapter 3.2.1, basically starting the Eurozone now with final manufacturing PMI. We've taken a look so far to the United States of America, analyzed 27 different economic indicators out of the United States, and now it is time to look at the Eurozone. Then we'll move on to the United Kingdom, Australia, and Canada. There are not that many indicators to be analyzed on these economies, but the majority of them you already know from the United States. If in the United States we had the ISM manufacturing and non-manufacturing, here in Europe they are being called final manufacturing PMI and final services PMI. Final manufacturing PMI is an index calculated based on surveyed purchasing managers from the manufacturing industry. About 3,000 managers are being asked to respond questions relative to general business conditions, new orders in the company, employment levels, hiring, and so on and so forth. Based on those information, based on that information, an index is being calculated. It is being interpreted compared with the 50 level, values higher than the 50 level suggesting industry expansion, while values lower than the 50 level suggesting industry contraction. It should be noted that subscribers of Thomson Reuters, you know, the big news agencies Reuters, received the information 2 minutes earlier than the general public. So if there is any volatility to be seen in the market before the actual release, that is due to those subscribers trading the news. It comes in two versions, flash and final, with the flash being more important as it is the first release. The most important things to take into consideration when looking at the final manufacturing PMI is the release date on a monthly basis first of all, and it is released on the first business day after month ends. The release time is 8 GMT during London trading session, and it is released by market. You can see what market represents going over the website to www.marketeconomics.com. And this index, like mentioned earlier, it is based on surveying managers in the manufacturing industry, and this represents a leading indicator of economic health. Why? You have to imagine the 50 line as being like a line in the sand for the industry, for the manufacturing industry, like the bull-bear line for either the industry is in contraction mode or in recession mode. Anything that is above 50 should be viewed positively. Anything that is below 50 should be viewed as an economy in recession or an industry in recession. However, as you will see when we are analyzing the data, the past 6 month data on Europe based on this indicator. However, if you have a rising trend, even if the values are below 50, but if you have a rising trend, it signals improving conditions in the sector. So while still signaling recession for the industry, it may signal in the same time improving conditions in the industry. So a little bit of optimism would not hurt there too. Now the final manufacturing PMI comes in two versions, flash and final, and they are being released 1 week apart. The flash release comes earlier and it should be more important than the final one. Above 50 signals industry expansion, and below 50, like mentioned earlier, signals industry contraction. Like mentioned, the Reuters subscribers received data 2 minutes earlier, and around 3,000 purchasing managers are being asked questions about the relative business conditions, the employment level, new orders, labor conditions, so on and so forth. Basically, everything that is important to know on the manufacturing side on that respective company. The release date is on a monthly basis on the first business day after month ends. The release time is 8 GMT during the London trading session. The actual being higher than the forecast, this should be interpreted as positive for the currency, and the actual being negative, being less than the forecast, and this should be interpreted as negative for the currency. It is a first tier data, and being a first tier data, market move the most when final manufacturing PMI is being released. Regarding to the actual and forecast interpretation, while in the United States we had the interpretation most likely to be influencing the risk on risk off moves, in Europe it is not the case anymore. Actual and forecast, actual bigger than the forecast and actual lower than the forecast, may actually mean what they are supposed to mean, positive or negative for the currency, and this is a first tier data. Now if you look at the past 6 months in Europe with final manufacturing PMI, you see the 50 line above has not been touched. So basically the manufacturing sector or the manufacturing industry in the Eurozone, it is in recession at least since February. I don't know exactly from where the recession started, because I didn't look at the prior months, but what I can tell looking at this chart, that this is clearly a recession, an industry in recession, and levels below 45 were not seen, but not above 50 as well. Looking at the past 3 months, May, June and July, you may see that we have rising values, something like 46, 48, 49 or 47, 48, 49, something like this for the final manufacturing PMI. And that might be encouraging in the sense that you have a small rising trend in otherwise a recessionary industry, but a small rising trend. So it may be just a matter of months, or when the final manufacturing PMI will pop over the 50, and that would be positive, signaling the industry is expanding yet again. Therefore, it should signal good news. We'll move on with the next indicator in the Eurozone being final services PMI, and this is by far the most important between the two, final manufacturing and final services. Why? Because the majority of the developed economy in the Eurozone are service-based economy, and being service-based economy, it means that the result of this survey in the final services PMI influence the most the GDP, and what influences the GDP is being treated with most respect by traders. But before moving to the next recording and to the next indicators, this being final services PMI, let's make a recap for the final manufacturing PMI. The release date is on a monthly basis, on the first business day after month ends, and the release time is 8 GMT during the London trading session. If the actual is higher than the forecast, then this is positive for currency, and if the actual is lower than the forecast, then this should be viewed negative for the currency, and mark that down. It is a first tier data. Now stay tuned for the next recording. We're going to head towards the final services PMI in the Eurozone, please.